Alright, so I just got done about 20 minutes ago cleaning out my storage unit. It took me, I think, 4 trips in total to move everything out. And then the last trip I only had like 3 things in there, including my mirror from my dresser that I don't ever use because I hate that thing. It was on it for a while, and I had a blanket over it the whole time because I don't like mirrors in my space. I like them to have limited space. I don't like them to I don't like to go in a room and that's the big thing, right? So like I had it covered for a long time, and then I finally just like, I don't need this, so why don't we just take it off? And so we did, and then it went into storage. And since it's no longer at the storage unit because that is now empty, and I sent them an email about canceling my account, it is now in the shed. And I'm gonna have to rearrange the shed a little bit. But my stuff's good. It's in the back corner like it was before. I went ahead and looked through it as I was bringing stuff in. It's like, okay, this can go in the shed. So then I had like a truckload of stuff that went back to the shed. And so yesterday's trips were the 2. Everything went inside. But today's everything went outside, basically. Or a good chunk of it went to the shed. But I was happy to have that done. And it was way easier than I thought. And I'm glad I made that decision yesterday morning. And got it handled. It's supposed to snow. It's supposed to snow like 1 to 3 inches tonight into tomorrow, and then I think we're supposed to get another 3 to 6 on top of that. So I've handled all of the storage unit stuff before any of the snow has fallen, and that's a good thing, especially since I got to make the trip to the backyard. And my mom kept saying, don't do that, the ground is wet. It's like, no, the ground's good and frozen now. The past like 3 days have been chilly. So it's handled. Went to walk the dogs earlier, and Peppy didn't want to be left behind today, so she went with us. And at one point I looked down, and she's the one, she walks, so, I mean, she's like 13, pushing 14, or somewhere thereabout. And at one point I look at her, and she's got the collar across her head. It's like, yeah, we gotta fix that. She, however, would not have gone anywhere because, you know, all I would have had to do was sit down and she'd sit on my lap. She isn't the kind to take off like the other one did. Plus, she's really slow anyway, so she wouldn't get very far. But she seemed to enjoy the walk. We went on a smaller one today since she decided she wanted to go with us. I think that is the one thing that's kind of shifted since the other dog's been missing, is she does seem to like to be included more than before. Because previously, when there were 2 dogs, 2 Shelties, it was okay for her to be left behind. But now it's like, hey, don't forget me. I watched a tarot reading this morning that was talking about karmic lessons. Like, other people have karmic lessons that they have to go through, and like your biggest challenge is not to get too involved in helping them go through their stuff or deal with their stuff. And as I was listening to it, it's like, I feel like this could absolutely relate to this whole dog situation, you know, because we're moving in on a week and she is still missing. But also, like, the last sighting was on Sunday morning. So I feel pretty confident that somebody probably found her. And if they have another dog that talked her into coming into the house, you know, I could absolutely see that being the case. You know, because that's basically more or less how she figured out how to go into our house, was to follow the other dogs. She wasn't 100% at it, but if other dogs demonstrated it was okay, then she would catch on eventually. So I don't know, but I feel like that has in fact been the big thing. It's just not me overexerting myself to take care of things just because I can, and giving them the opportunity to prove or not whether they, are willing to put forth the effort in finding her even. My sister-in-law asked me earlier if they've been posting it online or anything. It's like, nope, I posted it all, and then Mom shared it a couple times. Dad hasn't done anything, which is to be expected. I think he might have called one person that he knew after Mom found him the phone number. But like, that's the extent of it. So I don't know, but there's been no other sightings, and I can't do it for him. Like, that's the biggest thing. I feel like this is one of those things that's a lesson for them, and since I have spent my whole life overgiving to these people, and they just, they didn't appreciate it, they just came to expect it, right, and feel like they're entitled to it somehow. So I feel like this has got to be on them. And like I've said many times before, I don't know that they legitimately care enough to put forth the effort. So what can you do with that? I had this dream last night. I was like, honestly, what's it called? PX? I think that's the little store for like military shop type things. It was like I was in one of those with somebody. Okay, this is I made note of it because it's something that I've heard in the past, and it seems to carry some relevance for me on that end. So there have been a few dreams that I have had that were hugely important and stood out as hugely important. And like there was like this specific lesson in the dream. And like the main character that I was talking to in the dream, I mean, beyond me being there in the space. Okay, so on 2 occasions, it was a black guy, right? And otherwise, like there's been some where it's like a girl who appears of Asian descent or something, and today was kind of along that line. But it's like the ones that have people of other races seem to be, what the fuck does he want? Seem to be the ones that have a message that, sorry, I'm really distracted because now I have an incoming call from my father, and I'm trying. Let me hit the ignore button. Okay, I don't want to lose my video. But anyway, I heard something a while back where they said if you have a dream and it features people of other races, then it's angels, right? It's like angelic presence. And that kind of makes sense, I think, because are you going to take it seriously if it's somebody in a different race? And like my freaking life in this town, right? White girl in a white family, went to a white school, in a white town, right? A whole lot of whiteness, right? And that whole it's a whole lot of judgy white people, right? I've talked about those, especially in my family. My grandfather, especially with his comments about, or his complaints anytime there was a black family or mixed family in a commercial on TV, right? So to me, it makes sense that the dreams that hold more weight would have somebody of another race for the message. 10-10. Because are you going to take it seriously? This is a serious message that you're supposed to be learning from this situation, but are you going to take it seriously based on your past and upbringing and everything that, wants to challenge the idea of the other anyway, right? So to me, I can make this make sense that would be the case. And like one of the dreams, way back when, it was 2011, after broke up with a dude that I thought I was going to marry. It's like we were in this field that kind of became like a sort of battleground. And there was like this, like we were standing there hugging each other, and then there was this explosion and like this bright white light, and next thing I know, I'm like on the ground, but I'm like trying to get up and find him because, he was just in my dream, or he was just here with me, but then he wasn't, right? And there ended up being like this military convoy that came through, and they were like urging me to come with them. And when I went over to where they were, the guy that seemed like he was in charge of the whole thing, he was talking to me directly, and one of the things he said was, this battle isn't yours, it's God's. And I was like, that's oddly specific, right? Now, like, I'm looking for this guy that, I was with previously, and then we're like ripped apart, and then still frantically concerned about what's going on with him, and this person that's come to collect me and take me away to safety is telling me that that's not my concern, basically. But then as I realize that we're moving, but we're not moving in the truck. And when I turn around and look up, he's got wings, and we're suddenly flying away. When he was in this military uniform before, so that was one that, it was, I think, the first one that like really grabbed my attention. And honestly, I've kind of questioned Archangel Michael's appearance in the thing, because the things that I've heard of him, it seems like that would make sense. But there again, it was a dream, right? But like that point was like so loud and clear, right? This battle isn't yours, it's God's. Okay. What more? Like, there's nothing else to ask about that, right? That makes sense. But then I had this other dream in the past few years where I was like in this mall or something, and there were all these people around, and I was getting really frustrated because everybody's ignoring the music, 333. And there's this other guy, definitely not the same as the one before. He was a lot shorter and stouter, and as I'm like all worried about everybody else, he's just like, you can't worry about what they're doing, you have to, you can only do what you can do, and you got to focus on your day-to-day and being more of who you are, and then everybody else will start to, kind of catch on, right? And it was basically, it's like, have to start dancing first, right? Because that's the situation in the dream. It was like this, like, the thing I'm thinking of is there's this place called the Roller Cave that we used to go to when I was little. They used to have skating parties for the kids in the area, right? Our school used to have these few times a year that we would have these little skating parties, and they had this dance floor in the middle of the rink, and it had like the squares with the lights that would kind of flash and turn different colors and all those things, and it was kind of like that setup. That, like, the big thing was you can only do what you can do, focus on your little thing, and you start doing your thing, and then eventually, at the end of the dream, it's like everybody else is dancing too. It's like, hey, so it's like the dreams that are meant to, or have a pretty solid message to convey, it's like consistently been my experience. The girl that I'm always talking about in the dreams, right? The one that was outside the bathroom stall in the dream I had when it was time for me to start getting back into the YouTube thing, right? Because I had taken the break, and I thought all of February that I needed to get back into doing the videos, but then I was still dragging my feet on it until I had this dream. And then there's a girl sitting outside the bathroom stall leaning against the little strip between the doors. And she says, you need to start sharing the story you already have to share before more of your mission will be revealed. So it's like all the big ones have followed this sort of idea that it's people of other races are actually angelic presences in the dream space. And today, or this morning, I had one that was kind of like that. But I was running around with this guy, and it was kind of like, it made me think, or it's making me think now. I was thinking earlier, like a store of some sort. But as I've been thinking about it, it's like specifically kind of like the ones on military bases or whatever, the PX or whatever, the base exchange thing. But we were in one of these buildings, or one of these stores, and it's after hours, so most of the lights are off, and there's certain lights that are still on. And we're going around, and I don't remember all of the dream because I was really tired and didn't want to wake up enough to write more of the details down. But I remember that it was very, very dark compared to, a normal dream where things are happening in the daytime, like the battlefield dream or whatever. It was much darker than that, right? And I don't remember what me and this guy were even doing, but I remember at one point, it was basically like, I already know how she's going to react. And he kind of was like, well, prove it, kind of a thing. And I went over to my mom in this dream, and she's like in this area that's more lit up, but not a lot more lit up, but she's with other people. And it kind of seemed like they might be playing cards, which is weird. My mom hasn't played cards in years, but that was the feeling of the situation. And then I presented her with this thing that was going on, and she specifically said, well, look at you always winning, or something like that. And the way she said it was like hugely sarcastic and kind of demeaning. And when I went back to where this guy was at, he was like, oh, I see what you mean. Right? So it's like one of those things of, already know how she's going to respond. And then, she confirms it with, somebody else paying attention. But when I was writing it down this morning, what I was thinking about was like how me and this other guy are maneuvering through this store that's, a lot darker than normal. That's like, there are lights, but there's not a huge amount of lights that are on. So it's like we're still doing this like the spiritual work in the shadows, right? Being sort of isolated away while the work's having to be done, right? Because like that's one of the big things with the spiritual journey is a lot of what you have to go through, you just have to go through by yourself, because nobody else is going to understand it. And even those that kind of do will still have had their own experiences where it might not translate exactly the same, right? So the big thing, like for me, in order to not talk myself out of this whole thing, has been, there's a lot of it I just don't share with anybody, right? I share in this space, my little YouTube space. But other than that, I travel in large groups of one right now, so that's like there are things that I have talked to my brother about. There are things that I have talked to like the people in the class that I was going to about, right? But a lot of it doesn't translate across the board for everybody. So, okay, what's coming to mind now, specifically on that end, is when I started going to classes at Inner Path, and Annie said, or I mentioned the first day there, I was giving a little bit of introduction for myself, I guess, and said something about being on the twin flame journey, right? And the first thing, like as soon as I said it, Annie, who is the teacher of this spiritual class, was immediately talking about, well, I don't necessarily believe with that path, and I need to do a class on this thing. And it was just immediate. It was like, she is not somebody to talk to about this journey. She already, as into the spiritual things as she is, she's already saying specifically that she doesn't agree with the twin flame journey, or like she doesn't see it the same way as a lot of people do. It's like that right there is a sign that that's not her journey. That's not a problem. But she's also, because it's not her journey, that's not somebody to get information from on this thing, right? Whereas, I also mentioned it to Lenita, and she was a lot more open to the thing, and she was like, something like, okay, since we were talking about all the rocks in her class, she said, try Morganite. And, it's one that, it's got the pink rocks, so it's the heart chakra, right? Higher heart chakra stuff. But she said that, it's like, okay, right? So it's like not relying on any one teacher for all the information, because not everybody has all the details, right? Just because somebody has more time and experience doesn't mean that they know more about everything, right? So like the nice thing about the whole twin flame thing that I'm discovering is it's like whatever I've needed, the universe presents me with the opportunity to find another person who speaks to that specific thing. Yeah, there are still those that will come up on occasion and be like there's one girl on Instagram that I follow her because I like a lot of what she says, but then every now and then she wants to throw in toxic twin flames. It's like, you are not on the twin flame path. So, you can't, like, that's the struggle with it, because if you're in the spiritual leadership type role and you're trash talking this other thing, then there are people that are more inclined to doubt themselves in their own journey because you've said something that contradicts what they're being guided on, right? Which, what I've learned, like, especially with Annie, like, because that was the first day I met her and talked to her about anything, and, I mentioned that in front of the whole group, and the response was just, she knows a lot about what she's talking about, generally, but not that specific thing. So that's not where you get the information for this, because it's like the whole point, I think, of my entire journey has been this learning to trust myself piece, and learning to be okay with not being for everybody, right? Like, I spent a lot of years thinking that because I couldn't reach everybody, that it was better not to try reaching anybody. But that's not the case, because, part of this is, like, speaking your truth so that the other people who do share those, perspectives or ideas, or, that you resonate with, can learn something and we rise together, right? So it's not just doing it for them. Going back to like this dog situation, it's like I cannot be the only one doing anything for this situation to try to get this dog back. Old me absolutely would have bent over backwards trying to do everything, out of obligation to the dog as much as to the family, right? But it's like, I think that's why it's as complicated as it is too. Just because, like where I've talked about being blocked in the situation with the dog, and like seeing how it's played out, and like even like the signs, and we had some hung up, and now then they, then the weather, some of them got wet, some of them got blown away, right? So, but it's like, these are still things outside of our control, and especially outside of my control. Like I have flyers down here. I tried hanging one up the other day, and the staple gun shot one staple out, and then it wouldn't do anything else, and I couldn't figure out what it was doing or how it got stuck. And I was trying to do something else too. I just figured that was an easy thing I could do on the way, and then it ended up not being so easy. So it's like, fuck it, we're not messing with it right now. So it's been one of those things. I still have these flyers in the car. Like every day me and the dogs get in the cars, he was checking them out, like, what are these for? What's happening here? But like there's a stack of flyers on the table that, the ones that were so urgently needed to be printed off. And my mom was pissed when I made her go with me because I didn't want to just do everything for her. But then we got these flyers printed off, and I don't think she's done anything with any of them. The exception of a couple that I think she did take to the vets in Greenfield. But aside from that, it's like, it can't fall on me. I don't want to do all the stuff for everybody else all the time. I've never wanted to do that, but I wanted to be valued for my contributions. And the one thing that happens if you're, doing everything for everybody else all the time is they don't value it, right? They just feel entitled to it, and like you somehow owe them just because you've done it before. And it's kind of a weird space to be in with trying to navigate what to do versus where to hold back and all that crap. So, yeah. But anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I kind of like doing the shorter ones, to be honest. It's like, got way less to talk about now. It makes sense. I mean, I'm still talking about enough, but still not, tying up my entire day with doing the video and then watching the video. So like, it's 4:12. So when I get home, I'm going to go back to emptying out the closet in my office so I can start putting some of those boxes that I pulled out of the storage unit in there. I got my bookcase set up. It went in my bedroom, and it fit perfectly underneath the shelf. I wasn't sure if it was too tall to go in that spot, but then it ended up being like the perfect height for it. So that's a happy thing. Not thrilled about all the excess stuff again, but there again, that's more motivation to purge some stuff, right? So, yeah. Anyway, I'm wrapping it up and gonna go do something else. So, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.